Welcome to the Government News Brief for Friday, January 22, 2016. In the news, relief coming for drought-affected hinterland communities, heart patients requiring surgery will have these done free of cost locally, and housing being made more affordable for Guyanese. With these and other stories, I am Azim Khan. Guyana is in the grip of a dry spell due to El Nino. A meteorological official explains what this weather effect has on the nation.
Ghana has been experiencing the effects of the El Nino weather pattern for some time now. Although the country is no stranger to the weather pattern, its effects are causing some concern. The government is closely monitoring the situation.
Georgetown, in the month of December, the normal is to have in excess of 300 millimeters of rainfall. But for December last, Georgetown struggled to reach 100. So for Georgetown alone, it was less than about a third of the rainfall that we're supposed to be having. And this is just in Georgetown. But that was replicated in all of the other regions and all of the other stations that we have. Many of the stations were significantly below their long-term average.
Water levels in many interior rivers and creeks that lead to the coast are far below normal levels.
Hardest hit would be Southern Guyana, Regions 9, Southern Region 6, Region 8. Because to begin with, those areas only have one rainy season per year. Unlike the coast that we have two rainy seasons, we have the May, June, and then the end of year rainfalls, they only have one. That is just about April. It begins in April. Begins in April and runs till July. So they have been having this sort of situation, reduction in rainfall for at least a year now. So they're in a dire situation.
The term El Nino refers to the large-scale ocean-atmospheric climate interaction linked to a periodic warming in sea surface temperatures across the central and east-central equatorial Pacific. For Guyana and the Eastern Caribbean, the weather pattern has disrupted the usually wet and dry seasons. The Agriculture Ministry and other agencies are closely monitoring the situation with a view to making the necessary interventions as needed. Consumers have also been asked by the Ghana Water Incorporated, GWI, to conserve water. This is in light that the utility is pumping at only 50% of its usual capacity.
Plans are in place to acquire funding and sourcing of equipment to assist hinterland communities that are affected by drought as a result of El Nino. Seneca Thorne tells us more.
Hinterland communities in regions 1, 7, 8, and 9 that have been affected by the prolonged dry season will be supported through government's plans. These plans will be short-term in the interim and long-term for the future to prevent recurrence of water issues.
The situation in the south is that there are what they call rock formation. So the shallow wells are not very helpful. So the idea is to get deeper wells, but then you have to have the appropriate machines to do that. While the government is having a long-term plan for better wells, deeper wells, there is plans afoot for short and medium-term operations.
Since last year, the hinterland regions have been experiencing a drought. They did not experience the usual May-June rain in 2015. Lakes in Region 9 that have never been dried are now in swamps. However, while there are good flow of water in regions 1 and 7, there is the issue of mining that is contaminating the water sources. It must be noted that residents in those regions use the water for drinking purposes.
We are working hard to put things in place, and this is with all the ministries, not only our ministry, because we have health issues because of the drought, we have farming issues because of the drought, and of course everyday life, and it is serious, but we are not. We have plans to try to cope with the situation. We are trying to allow them to understand that water is life. The drought is serious, so we have to conserve and try to, if there happens to be any rain, try to capture the rainwater.
According to Minister Ali Cock, government will now have to look at solutions with regards to addressing the issue of climate change, which not only affects the people but the ecosystem. For the Government News Brief, Sinica Thorne reporting.
Heart patients who require surgery and could not have afforded it can now breathe a sigh of relief. The Ministry of Public Health has now made it possible for such surgeries to be conducted free of cost. Here are the details.
Free heart surgeries will be available to all Guyanese thanks to the cardiac cath lab laboratory being operational. These surgeries will take place at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation.
Caribbean Heart Institute probably is now just playing an advisory or a supervisory role in this whole arrangement. But what is important to note is that if you come to the Georgetown Public Hospital Accident and Emergency Department with a cardiac problem that needs surgery, you can be taken from that Accident and Emergency Department directly to that cath lab and have your surgery done free of cost.
While the cath lab is ready to facilitate patients, there are other infrastructural works ongoing. These include an intensive care unit, post-operative rooms, and a new theatre.
What I'm impressed about was that technical aspect of putting in the console and having that hybrid cath lab laid in there with the air conditioning, that part is done, and that's the big part. All we're doing now is carpentry. All we're doing now is putting up the walls and so on. So I can see this happening very shortly.
The cath lab will also be accessible to foreign doctors who conduct cardiac surgeries. With this Government News Brief, I'm Shanaz Low reporting.
With only days at the helm of the Housing Department of the Ministry of Communities, Minister Valerie Sharp Patterson has already begun making housing more affordable for Guyanese. Here are the details.
Minister Sharp Patterson has advised that persons who received allocation letters from the Ministry of Housing offering them house lots that they cannot afford are asked to visit her ministry.
So I want to say to the public, if you've received a letter with 1.2 and if you can afford it, okay. But if you can't, we're coming to us. I'm dedicated next Wednesday, particularly morning hours, for those persons who want to come with their letters for alternate allocations.
The minister explained that a new allocation would be made after consultations with the applicants as to what can be afforded. However, it was pointed out that specific emphasis will be placed on addressing the backlog to provide lots for low-income earners. The ministry is in the process of securing more lands for this category of applicants.
In some areas, we cannot readily do allocations for low income or those who cannot afford, they're at the baseline. For the high and middle income, we have lands available. But the masses, and about 94% of that 25,000 is low income earners. And that's the reason why I have to pay attention and have to focus, and it is in all regions.
Persons are advised that allocations are currently being done at Covent Garden, Herstelling, Perseverance, Farm and Providence, East Bank Demerara. For the West Bank Demerara, lots are available at Parfait Harmony. With this Government News Brief, I'm Shanta Gopadan reporting.
Coming out of the recently concluded ordinary meeting of the Association of Caribbean States held in Haiti was a commitment by France to fund further studies into the sustainable use of the Caribbean Sea. Guyana is a boundary country to the Caribbean Sea. Here are the details.
Key activities discussed during the meeting include extensive dialogue on the sustainability of the Caribbean Sea and the outcomes of the symposium of the Caribbean Sea Commission.
The Caribbean Sea is very, very important on a variety of fronts, on an environmental front, in terms of security issues, as well as a range of other factors. When I say environmental, I mean not only in terms of sustainable management of the fisheries resource, but also as a location in which there are considerable resources.
The importance of the Caribbean Sea to Caribbean states was noted, hence the need to conduct studies for the sustainable management of its resources.
On a wide variety of fronts, its significance on its people, for its people, and for the world as a whole. And the need now to manage it sustainably, to make sure that there are mechanisms in place to constrain illegal fishing and the use of illegal material in the case of the fisheries, to prevent overexploitation. There was also consideration given to issues pertaining to invasive species, that is bringing varieties of marine life from elsewhere and locating them here. It has a lot of consequences, most of which are not good.
The position canvassed by Foreign Affairs Minister Carl Greenidge forms part of the country's Sustainable Development Goals. World leaders in September adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which is centered around 17 Sustainable Development Goals to end poverty, fight inequality and injustice, and tackle climate change by 2030. For Guyana, ensuring environmental sustainability is a key area of focus and ties into the use of the Caribbean Sea.
That has brought us to the end of the government news brief for Friday, January 22, 2016. All our programs are on our website. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube. Remember to send us your Guyana Nice photo. Here is ours.